Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the medical equipment world and healthcare. Get the scoop, the podcast where we break down durable medical equipment, patient care, and real world solutions for caregivers, families, and healthcare professionals. I am your host, Tara, and Silas is not here today. I'm your certified medical equipment specialist, and I am here today with the wonderful Jason Brooks. Jason, that is your last name, right?
It is. It is.
Look, I mess up people's names all the time. I'm gonna let you say your name, but so I want to welcome you to our show. And before we get started, we always like to read a disclaimer, of course. Since this information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice, always consult with your healthcare professional regarding any medical decisions or concerns. Neither the host nor guest assume liability for actions taken based on this content discussed in this episode, and as I always say, in any other episode. So there we go. And so, you guys, I am excited to be back today to have a conversation with Jason because we're going to talk about something that people probably often don't even equate to healthcare in the home and all these things, right? And it's gonna his Jason's company is called ICL Junk Removal. And so I have Jason's bio here, you guys. Let me just kind of read it for you really quick here. I tried to print it out, but unfortunately, I was having difficulties. So it says Jason Brooks is the founder of ICL Junk Removal, a property service company rooted in Inglewood, California. Jason built ICL on a simple belief: people who need help deserve to be treated with dignity when they ask for it. What looks like junk removal from the outside is really something else, restoring safety to a home where clutter has taken over, helping a family navigate a clean out they've been dreading for years. I understand that one. Finding a second life for items that still have value. ICL is Inglewood born and community focused. Jason serves the neighborhoods he knows, and following and showing up is just not with a truck, but with care for what the work actually means to the people on the other side of it. And I like that because what you're saying here and what I'm taking from that is you're just not the traditional pick up the junk. Let me just get rid of this for you. It's more personable.
Mm.
Um, and that way, people can actually, because I think a lot of times, because I know I have family who they want to hold on to everything. And it's like we got to get rid of some stuff. Like we really do. And we hold on to things because we even look at it as memories and all that.
Mm.
And so when we can take those things and maybe store them properly, still keeping those things, right, for those memories, then I think that's ideal and not just get rid of it. And that way you still can actually accomplish the goal that you want to, right, with organization and organizing your place. So, Jason, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be with you. It really is.
Okay, so share with us about how did you get into this? What's your background? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how did all of this happen? Like, because what made you want to get into this great service? Because I think it's a great service, and I know people probably audience out there, you're probably thinking like, well, what does this have to do with healthcare? It has a lot. And so,
Mm.
as a matter of fact, let me just say this real quick. What many families don't know is 1 in 4 seniors fall each year.
Mm. Mhm.
And most of those falls happen inside the home. Research shows that up to 50% of those falls are tied to environmental factors. Things like clutter, poor layout, and unsafe pathways. In fact, over a quarter of homes already have tripping hazards present. Right now in your home, you probably don't even realize that. And so for me, Jason, I don't know if you know, but I go out into the homes and we do what's called in-home assessments.
Mm. Okay. Yeah.
And so we see all type of things like rugs and boxes and all these things that people don't even realize. So I'm going to let you share your background, how you got into this, and just kind of share with our audience about a little bit about clutter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Again, it's great to be with you. Let me start off by saying I never once in my entire life thought I'd be running a junk removal business. But as God, life, the universe, whatever system you believe in, like here I am, right? And
Yes.
now I grow roots, right? So by training in a previous career, I'm a linguist. So I was a teacher for a long time. So I taught Spanish, Mandarin, and mathematics. I had a full career in education and stepped away from that. But really bring that sort of rigor and thinking to this space. So I my first foray into business was not actually in junk removal at all. It was at the intersection of natural language processing, computers, and then mathematics. So my PhD is in sociolinguistics, which is the study of how people use language in social interactions. So I
Mhm.
launched a company in that space. That company crashed and burned. We took $2 million of venture capital and then burnt it within a year and like didn't work. It was like the most expensive, painful MBA in the world. Out of those ashes, launched another company that went well enough to sell it. And that gave me time to kind of think, right, and really reflect. And I had a great group of people around me to kind of give me who've known me my entire life. And I was like, y'all, like, what do I do next? Like, what's next? And they didn't really know. They reflected some things back to me that were like really affirming, but
Mhm.
they said you have time and don't rush into the next thing. And right around that time, it just happened to be October, November,
Mhm.
and then you start thinking about the holiday season. And I was like, I've always loved Christmas. I was
Yeah.
a kid who just like loved Christmas.
Mhm.
So then I was talking to a buddy, and he was like, hey, you should just like put up Christmas lights. And I was like, oh, that's a brilliant business idea. Let's just do that. So I launched Inglewood Christmas Lights, and that's the ICL of ICL junk removal.
Okay.
And then I was like, I really love doing this Christmas light stuff, but it's seasonal, right? It's 1 month out of the year. How do you do it?
Right. Mhm.
But then as you're putting up people's Christmas lights,
Mhm.
it's the intimacy of like being in your home, being part of your celebration, being literally on your roof, right? The risk you're in people's homes. And then like when you're on somebody's roof, you start to see their garage, you start to see the maintenance, you start to see other things. And it became very, very clear,
Uh-huh.
oh, the way to extend this
Uh-huh.
is junk removal, right? So I was like, oh, that's it. So we do ice and Inglewood Christmas lights rolled into junk removal. And that's how I got here. So then I try to apply both my background in terms of education and psychological safety, and really bringing what I know about the human brain and psychology and sensitivity and maintaining dignity with the really high end sort of technical environment. And those are the two things that set us apart. So we're not just like guys in trucks who are just kind of like Neanderthal, like drag stuff out of your house. It's really about like, okay, let's first understand how we got here and what this all means. Let's make meaning out of all that, right? So we're not removing junk, right? We're removing 50 years of memories. We're using 50 years of disposable incomes. We're removing 50 years of your kids' clothes and toys and degrees and all these things that have narrated your life. So when we're taking those things and repurposing those things and finding new homes for those things, we really want to frame that and walk with the homeowner there. And then on the back end, we leverage a lot of technology to identify the items in the home that can be resold, repurposed, and then repurposed. And the last thing I'll say is that we have partnered with three, and I'm growing here, but three organizations that will take, say, a couch or a chair or a piece of furniture that may not have a life in your home, but it can be have a new life in with somebody who's getting out of domestic violence, right? The California recidivism is huge, right? Like you get out of the state penitentiary with $50, right? And it costs you $47 Greyhound to get from Lancaster down to downtown LA, which means you have $3 to get from downtown LA to
Yeah.
wherever else, right? And that's not even to meaning to start your new life, right? I can't imagine how hard it'd be to restart my entire life. I can't talk to anybody from my old life with $3, right? So
Wow.
again, we take that furniture and give those guys a bundle. And then the last partner we have is with one of the local churches here where like people again are in need. So it's really trying to think systemically. And then the last thing I will actually say is as a person of faith, right, we sit on Sunday and sing and say really powerful words, right? And we talk about, being transformed and water wine and all these like junk and all these different motifs, but there's no stronger story than literally taking broken things and giving them a new life, right? And if that's not the gospel, I don't know what is. So there's purpose, right? So like when you think like, oh, run a trash company or junk removal, it's like, no, it's not really about junk removal. It's really about having that full ecosystem.
Exactly. And that's what I saw when I met you. That's what I felt. I was like, it's something different. This isn't just your regular pickup junk, right? It's not that, right? And so when you take anything broken and give it to someone. And it's so crazy you talk about that, the refurbishing, because company people actually do that where they go and they pull things from the outside if they see that's outside somewhere sidewalk or whatever, and they take it and they repurpose it and it's beautiful. And they actually put it online. They show this. I think there's a whole series on people
Yep.
doing that kind of stuff, right? So that is absolutely beautiful. And it's such a blessing too to be able to give back to somebody because we just never know where we find ourselves at, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so that can put a smile on someone else's face when, so wow, that is awesome. I love the story. I love it.
Yep.
I love what you're doing. I love the whole the purpose behind it and
Mhm.
all that. So kudos to you for that and seeing it as a larger thing and not just like, oh, we're just picking up junk and we're just, cleaning out someone's home. So there's a whole different purpose behind it. And so I love that. That is
Absolutely.
that's so awesome.
Yep.
So well, I'm gonna ask you some questions then.
Please.
So, common hazards seen in the home. So I
Mhm.
know you're in these homes and all this stuff. So share with us that when you go into someone's home, some of the hazards you see, because I know what we see. And so I know when you go inside and you talked about when you were doing these lights and you look into people's garages, you're like, oh my God, right? Like it's a lot going on in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
hazard.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
mhm.
So there's always like the sensational stories, like the hoarder stories and the rats and the mice and the possums. Like we literally had like a
Gosh.
family of possums in somebody's garage. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, yep, all right, got it. Like, so there's those challenges. I'm happy to talk about those, but I will say like framing the higher piece.
Uh-huh.
Um, every human being has something about themselves that they don't want the world to see, right?
Yeah.
And for some of us, it is maybe an inappropriate relationship with drugs and alcohol. Some of us, it's an inappropriate relationship with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And some of us, it's inappropriate relationship with actual things,
Yeah.
right? And some of those relationships are really obvious, and some of those relationships are not so obvious. So the first step is really to normalize and say, grow. Like your thing might be your garage, and my thing is X. Your thing is Y, your thing is Z, right? So like there is no judgment here, really trying to solve a problem. And the problem is that because of your thing, you are not living your best life, as the kids say, right? So it's like, how do we remove this thing so that you can live your life, so that you bought this beautiful house literally in View Park, Windsor Hills, England, wherever it is, that has like this beautiful view, but you can't see that view because of the things that are in the way. So how do we remove those things, take care of you emotionally, take care of you psychologically,
Mhm.
so that you can live your life, right? So it really comes down to helping people make that transition. And we found um, that people often are coming from places of wounds, right? So, like, I'll keep it 100, right? Like, when you grow up with food instability, when you grow up seeing trauma, when you grow up, like, I'm from Watts, like Watts, 80s, 90s Watts, like Watts, Wolf de Wolf, like Watts, right?
Okay.
And right, and I went away to school and all that stuff and kind of came back, but like from there. So when you grow up, there are certain traumas that follow you throughout life. So if you don't know where your next meal is coming from, if you don't know where your next pair of shoes come, or your shoes got stolen off your feet, right? And you have to walk barefoot or walk home, with no shoes on.
Mm.
That's gonna create trauma. That when you are the successful person who can afford a bunch of Jordans, I'm gonna buy them all up because you're trying to heal that childhood wound, right? And you do that over a course of a 40, 50-year career, and then your garage, your house is filled with all these things, and you're trying to put physical items to heal that child wound, right? So it's really about understanding the psychology. And I'm not trying to make you vulnerable. I'm not trying to make you naked in a really dangerous world. We're
Mhm.
trying to identify that wound and heal it with what it needs to be healed with. This is really relationships and healing in that relationships. And then we can move those items into another physical place so that you can again live the life that you're meant to live.
That is, you know what, Jason, that is so deep into, and that is so real because you even down, how's it use, like even down to your desk. I mean, you think about things, right? And you're like, for me, like if I don't, it's like, oh my God, girl, you have got to get this desk together.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't think, like I
yeah,
can't function. I'm just
yeah.
like, I cannot function today. I can't function because I have, I'm working on something and it's here. But then I noticed that when I organize, okay, let me clear this desk, let me organize my desk here, I need to get this to clear it out. it's like I feel so different. It is
Mhm.
something behind it. Like it
Mhm.
literally, and I don't think people realize that. And so we do hold on to things. My God, we hold on to things. Like even for myself, I had to really come to the conclusion as a Tara, you really have to, unfortunately my husband had passed away. It's been 5 years this month.
Mhm.
And I've still been holding on to things that was, yeah, yeah. You hold on to things until you just have to come to the realization that you have to let some things go in order to move forward, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry to go like that, but I get it. And so we do hold on to things. We hold on to all these things. And I've seen it like so many people, like I said, in my family, like sometimes you do, I'm like, we have got to let go of some things. And I'm getting there, right? I'm not there, but I'm
Mhm.
getting there. And I know that when you get rid of these things, it's not that you're getting rid of them, but like you said, you need to maybe repurpose them. Maybe you need to put them in another box. You maybe need to put them in another area of the home. You need to maybe have it organized to the point where it's not in your way,
Mhm.
right? Where you could, yeah, it's pretty deep.
Yeah.
It's really deep.
It really is. And like first thing I do want to just slow down and express just solidarity and solitude for what you just expressed, right? It is not, I can only imagine what that experience is to go through. And then thinking about your body and how like one of my favorite books is The Body Keeps the Score, right? So your body is storing that trauma. It is profoundly unnatural. Like death is profoundly unnatural. We get used to it, we deal with it, but it is not what we are designed for. It is not why humans were put on this earth, right? So like we're having to deal with this thing, and I'm okay calling it is death is evil incarnate. It is not what we're made for, right? But we have to like brace and deal with it. And when you think about when you brace, right?
Yeah.
Look at my physical body. This is not how I'm designed to be. But I
No.
get used to it and I get stuck here and I feel okay, at least like if I keep my body in this position, I won't be hurt anymore, right? And we accept this mediocre standard of living because again, we're bracing to it, and then your brain just gets addicted to that level of cortisol, right? Where it's like, all right, cool, like this is it. Like if I don't shake anything, nothing more bad will happen to me, right? So once we kind of understand that, then we know the path to do the hard work of kind of like relaxing the body and letting yourself open again. And that is lifelong work, and like that little piece of like removing the items in the junk is like a little bit small piece, but it's the piece, it's like that little like that that Jenga piece, right? When you pull it
Yes.
out and the whole tower comes
Exactly. Oh
down,
my God, it's
right?
so true.
Right?
Yes.
But it's
Yes.
that first step of like, to your
Oh,
point, like literally, not my opinion. Look it up. The psychological studies of like you do better work at a clear desk, right?
oh,
A clear mind, right? Think about like you cook better in a clean kitchen where you know where all your stuff is, right? You,
exactly.
right? Like athletes play better on an even field. If the field is uneven and got potholes and all that stuff, you're not going to play freely because you have to think about this other thing. So if even if 5% of your bandwidth is thinking about like, where's the salt again? Like
Yeah.
you're not going to enjoy cooking, right? Where's the salt, right? Like versus when you're in your flow, this is why you go to a high-end Michelin restaurant, right? They have the mise en place. They put everything in its right place before the chef comes in. So that
Uh-huh.
way when the chef comes in, boom, 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 the chef can do their thing. So it's very, I mean, it's the same things, but just in the home, So we try to bring all that into the work that we do.
God, yeah, that is so amazing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like this is so good because you don't even think about it. But then you start sitting back and you're like, this is some real stuff. This is real stuff. And it affects you emotionally,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so there, yeah, this is really good. So when families typically reach out to you
Mhm.
before or after a crisis. So when is it, what do you say to that?
It's usually, I mean, it's really sad. There's always a huge sad component. Somebody's fallen, somebody's coming like slammed into a literal wall of like, hey, like you can't live like this anymore. We're gonna have to downsize, you're gonna have to move into a home, or God forbid somebody passes, or there's really some sort of undeniable break in a life. So everybody's raw, everybody's really sensitive. Um, and I really have so much reverence and that is hollowed ground, literally, right? So there's some things structurally that we try to do on our end. So usually show up to a site with three guys. One guy is the operational lead, so his job is to make sure we get the stuff out in a quickly, efficiently, respectfully, right? So that's just his job. We have the technical lead, right? So that person's job is to make sure that all of our technology is working, right? So we're taking photos of everything. We're taking photos of the house. From those photos, we're making sure that we can quickly and efficiently get those items to our partners. And
Mhm.
then the last piece is that we have a care lead, and that person's job is to care for the homeowner, right? There's a ton of stress. There's a lot of people who are not at their best, right? Like we're meeting families in huge, the biggest transitions of their lives, right? Right. And you got to think like I'm reminded of this all the time. I won't say his name, but one of our clients is, in his 90s, right? But when he was in his 20s, he was that dude, right? And in his head, he's still that dude, right? So like, how do you give a 90-year-old man the respect, admiration that he had when he was a strapping 25-year-old Marine popping muscles? You're like, whoa, that was you? Like, absolutely, that was me, right? So then how do you help that man who can't physically lift his things anymore? He can't physically lift those boxes anymore, but you want to give him that feeling, right? So like, all right, Mr. So-and-so, actually have a seat. We're at your service. You let us know what you
Right.
want to keep, what you want to go. Like that's your throne. Like you're driving the show. We're not driving the show. These are your things. These are not my things, right? So like we now become his hands and feet.
Wow. That's so awesome. That is so awesome. Like that's the difference.
Mm,
Because I was going to
that's it.
ask you what is the difference between you and someone else, but you just told us. Like, that compassion, the respect thing, you're sitting there, you're having that conversation with them. It's tough. Like, it's not just you calling someone out and say, hey, I got these things, I need them removed out. No, it's deeper than that. And
Absolutely.
that is, yeah, so that, I love that. I love that. So, areas of the home that pose the greatest, safest risk, would you say?
Oh my gosh. Garage. And this is the funny
The
stuff.
garage.
Garage. However you want to say it. I mean, wow. Wow. Uh, I,
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if this is the PG-13, but uh, wow. How do I say this?
Uh,
People, it has been surprising, but also not shocking to me how people use their garage to put things that they don't necessarily want to get rid of, but they don't want to be confronted with every single day, right? And then you got to think about, we're in Southern California, garages are made of wood, and a lot of wood is exposed. So if you have like a bunch of papers and clothes and plastics and toys and things that are highly flammable
yeah.
next to exposed wood, two by fours, right? It only takes one spark for things to go up in flames, right? It only takes one slip for something to fall on you. Like a garage is not a structure that's meant to be lived in, right? There's all these regular, it's not built to code, right? It's just like literally a wooden box that you put things in. So we've seen a lot of, it's not intentional, but people just kind of make a step and they don't think about the second, third, fourth
Mhm.
order consequences of putting a stack of newspapers from 1950s next to, a refrigerator, right? One spark goes, that's all going to go up in flames, right? Or like you have a pile of clothes that of course you're trying to give it away. You meant to give it away, but you've been meaning to give those things away for 20 years.
Yeah.
20
God,
years.
yes.
Right? And in those 20 years, a family of mice, a family of rats, a family of possums have
Yes.
made their den in,
Inside.
and then there's health, there's real health
Yeah.
concerns, right? When you think about like, okay, I've got a literal family of possums underneath a pile of clothes, and then that structure heats up because of the heat wave. Now
Mhm.
all that pet dander, all that dust, all that disease is now magnified, and you're breathing that in. You're
Yeah.
literally breathing that in, and you have no idea because it's a mound full of clutter that you don't want to deal with. So you just close your garage door, you park your car in the street, and you just go into the side door and don't deal with it, right? And like, I don't know about the problems in your life, but the problems in my life that I don't deal with, they don't get smaller, they get bigger.
Well, you know what? I think we all have that
There you
because
go.
if you don't deal with it, it's like you don't deal with it, right? You just want to close it off. If you put all those memories in there, whatever you're dealing with, and you close it off, and you don't have to see it and you don't think about it until you have to face it.
That's it.
And
That's
then
it.
when you face it, it's like, oh wow.
Yep.
Yeah, because it will come a day.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then yeah, and a lot of people their hands get forced, and we don't want your hand to get forced. You
So true. Oh my God. Yeah, that is, and I never thought about it too. You talk about building, stacking all this stuff up, and you looking at it, and you're like, "Oh, it's just a garage. It's just it's in the garage." Like, yeah, we got
know? Right?
boxes of the kids, and that is so crazy too, because I am that person that have their kid. Yeah, I'm that girl. Like,
Yeah.
the kids are like, Mom, you got my, yes, I still have your work from elementary.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, get rid of that stuff. Okay, these kids are done. You're not gonna show it to the grandbabies.
Mm.
Okay, so yeah, because that's your thinking, like, oh my God, I'm gonna keep my baby stuff because now I can show it to my granddaughter, my grandbaby son, whatever. But like, look, they ain't trying to see that stuff. You got to get
Yeah.
rid of this paper because it's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's just
And I'm glad that you brought that up because I talk to our clients all the time about hedges, history, and hope.
yeah.
Right? So people keep on to things because they hedge it, right? Like you
Mhm.
think about like I can't tell you how many pairs of golf clubs I've had. Like, oh, one day I'm gonna hit the range. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. Right? You're hedging, so you're holding on to things because there's a gap between who you are, right, and who
Uh-huh.
you hope to be and where you want to be, right?
Uh-huh.
And items live in that hedge, right? Hope, right? Oh,
Mhm.
I hope to pass down this wedding dress or wedding ring or this heirloom to my kid. Like you have five cats, no kids. Like who are you going to pass this down to, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Right. And then history, right? We have history with items. And I think that's the part of just like, let's just look at it and let's understand, right? I have history with my grandma's ex. I have history with my grandpa's, World War II, uniform, right? And like, I will be the last person to say erase that history. No, 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 no. Let's actually dignify, let's amplify, let's elevate that history. But we've got to understand what we're dealing with first.
You do. And let me tell you, it's deep. I've had family members that pass away and they've been gone for 15 years or more, and the house is still like if they were gonna come back.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm like, wow, like, yeah, it's pretty deep. And so you like, when do and it's scary too because it's gonna fall on somebody
That's
to
right.
have to take care of,
That's right.
you
That's
know.
right.
So yeah,
And I will say like the saddest jobs that we've done are when usually a couple, their kids aren't either in their lives or they're just isolated and all their things are in the house and they've passed away. And
Mhm.
then that asset falls into a new hand, whether it's private equity or somebody buys it or whatever.
Mhm.
And there's distance between the people who used to live there and their
Mhm.
things. And it's really sad for us to be removing these items with no context because then now I become the eraser of
Right.
somebody's life and I have no context for this life. So like as we're the most emotional jobs I've ever been on, it's like, oh my God, like
Hmm.
here's your whole life in like
Hmm.
I'll tell you a quick story. Like I often not hope it's not too dark, but I once a month will go to a cemetery, and that's really to ground myself in like what's going to happen, right?
Hmm.
Like I will pass, and I want to be in that environment to
Hmm.
have
Hmm.
sobriety about like every day is a gift. Like we said all the time, oh my God, live your best
Yeah.
life. Every day is a gift. Da, da, da. But it's
Yeah.
like, no, 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 no. Like a
Hmm.
cemetery is the best way to remind yourself, like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
I'm going to be there one day too. Great. So get out there and live your butt off, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
when you're in these homes and you're moving it out so that somebody can renovate that apartment to then sell it, or excuse me, renovate that house to then sell it to the next buyer, right? Like that is the saddest piece. And like when people, the piece of advice I would give is when people are in their lives now, actually go through and live with the things you actually have, right? Because they have a story, right? And nobody's going to tell your story better than you,
Yeah.
and you want your home and your things to tell that story.
Oh, that's deep. That's deep. So you go to the cemetery once a month?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that is, it's
Just to pay
definitely,
respects.
it's in that and serenity.
Hmm.
I go off, well, I usually go often, but I still go a lot.
Yep.
But yeah, I've just been, my schedule has just been all over the place. But when I do go, it's so peaceful. And I know that
Yeah.
probably sounds crazy, but I go and I sit there and it is so peaceful and a serenity.
Yeah.
It really is.
And then I love that you are vulnerable there too, right? And I think it pokes at there's a lot of things that aren't ideal about this culture, right? But like one of it is consumership and all the other things, but we have this idolization of youth, right? Which then makes us afraid of being old and getting old and like losing the status and all that stuff. But then it makes us afraid of death. So that when we get to the inevitable stage in that transition, we are woefully unprepared, right? Because all of our society's orientation, literally, I mean, I love March Madness. We're watching young men
Yeah.
play a high impact game and be like,
Yeah.
oh, I used to do that. I can't, right?
Yeah.
We're looking, right? And then like on the other side, you think about makeup and Botox and all those things
Uh-huh.
where it's like,
Uh-huh.
instead of aging gracefully, right? We're looking at like, oh, I want to go back, right?
Right, right, right.
But then you hit, 70s, 80s, 90s, and you're in a home and you're like, I'm
Mhm.
unprepared. I don't know how to age well. Nobody's ever taught me how to age well. And nobody's ever modeled how to age well. Nobody's ever
Right.
modeled say, oh my God, like these are your booties from when you were 3 months old. I'm gonna love them. Give them Mary Kondo, kiss it, gave me joy, and pass it on. So
Uh-huh.
also it.
Wow. Wow. Well, what a great topic. Right? Like, what a great topic. Okay. Like, I love this. I really do. So, I have another question too.
Please.
How does clutter impact mobility and caregiving? So, I don't know if that ties into it, but I guess it will because you got people who's trying to take care of someone and there's things in the way.
Yep. I think there's the obvious pieces, right? But the piece that I try to think about and keep top of mind is stress. Like there's low levels of stress that
Mm.
people aren't always aware of, right? So you think about like literally if imagine like just a flat surface versus an uneven surface. That
Uh,
uneven surface causes 1% of stress that the caregiver has to like be careful in their steps. And
mhm,
that 1% means they're only given 99%
mhm.
of care because they have to spend 1% of their brain not to trip, not to fall, not to cut themselves on something sharp. Not right. They're moving slow when you need help because they don't want to rush because they don't know what they might trip over. They don't know what they might cut themselves on. They don't know what rusty nail might be sticking out of the side that hadn't been attended to. So there's like real consequences to clutter, right? Versus there's a wide open space, you know what I can do? I can move fast.
Exactly. And
Right?
that
But if
is
there's a
so
cluttered tight space,
true.
you can't, literally.
Yeah, and we see a lot of that. We see that too when we go out to homes. We like, I'm like, oh my God, look at
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I'm about to call Jason.
Hey, that's it. That's it. That's it. Please
I
do.
know, right? Oh my gosh. So, and we talked about the emotional side of downsizing and clean outs.
Mhm.
We talked about that because we know that anytime you're downsizing or you cleaning things out, it's definitely an emotional thing
Mhm.
for many of us, because we having to face that um how could I say it? The goodbye,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? I think that's
The end is always hard. Whether
yeah,
it's the end of the movie, the end of a relationship, the
yeah.
end of college, it's always hard, right? I've never been to a graduation that kids weren't crying at, right?
I
It's
know.
the end. It's
Mm-hmm.
the end, right?
It
When do you cry?
is.
At the end of the movie, right? Because it's over, right? Right? Like I remember very clearly my last high school basketball game, right? Like I cried because it's the end. The end is
Yeah.
always going to be hard, right? And we pretend that the end of our lives isn't going to be hard, right? And like again, we show up to that moment unprepared. So it takes like in these like these are the good old days. Like today is the good old day. When I'm 80, this will be the good old days. Oh, I wish I was 40 again, right? Right?
No. I know. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yes,
Right. So these are
exactly.
these are the good old days. So like if I can look forward and be like, okay, like how do I prepare myself now for, that the inevitable end, and then once you have that frame, then you can actually have a right relationship with an actual item. Okay, this is an amazing cup that has served me really well. I don't need this anymore. You can have the cup. And then it now gives purpose to other things in your life. So instead of it being framed as a loss, now it's like, okay, great. This cup served me for my 10 years. It'll serve somebody else for another 10 years. And I can feel really good about that because I have a corrected relationship with the end.
Right, right. So, and Jason, would you say like so an example for we know with product, like items, the sofas and things like that, people let go, but when you talk about people's papers and the personal papers and all these things that we hold on forever, How does that work? Because like you like, oh my God, I don't want to get that paper. Like I can get rid of this sofa,
Yep.
but I can't get rid of this certain papers.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
how
yeah.
does that work with you guys? You guys just pack it up and organize it for people and put it somewhere? How does that work?
So like practically on like so again going back to the care lead, the operational lead, and the technical
Right, right,
lead. The
right, right.
operational lead, right? That's his job to be like, all right, Ms. Slaughter, are there any papers that you want shredded? Right. So let's get that paper. Let's just shred them up, and then we'll back up and get it out. So that way your personal information isn't out there. Um, but papers and again, I think about papers versus documents,
I know.
right? And documents are meant to be preserved, right?
Yes.
So when you think about uh, degrees and certificates and birth certificate, all those types of things. Okay, that's a different set of category. Let's be really careful about that, and we
Mhm.
want to identify that before my guys come in and start pulling stuff apart, right? Okay, where are all of our documents, and
Mhm.
then what's paper, right? And then do you really need an oil change receipt of a car you had 5 cars ago, right? Like that car's already been crushed in some junkyard. Like, do you need an oil change receipt? Like,
You know,
nobody's driving that car anymore, no matter what, right?
Jason, how about the car? You don't even have the car no more. And that's me.
Right?
I'm sorry. Like I'm talking about, I'm laughing because I'm like, girl, I needed this conversation with Jason today.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, because I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I'm guilty. And it's so funny too, because my son is like, he's young, so he has no tolerance for paper
Mm,
or documents. I mean, you
yep,
can call it what you want to call documents, paper, however you want to call it. He's that generation where he's like, Mom, like, what are we doing? Like
yep,
we get there. He said, I don't want to see any more paper. And I have to tell him, like, I can't just get rid of all the paper, all the documents. He says, there's no reason for to have them. He said, there's systems here. We have
yep,
systems now. Let's use them. Like,
yep,
let's scan all this stuff. Like he has no tolerance for paper. It's so funny because he's just he has no tolerance for paper. And
yep.
it's a generational thing.
Yeah, no, it is, and it is. And we were talking earlier about like I feel like I'm in the generation where like I remember very clearly the day I got an email account. I remember very clearly the day, you get your first phone or the flip phone or like
Uh,
you're texting with like, oh my gosh, this is gonna take forever, right? Right? And you get an
yeah.
iPhone and you can just say it. You're like, what? What
Uh,
sorcery is this, right?
uh,
So it's a balance as to everything, right? Like, okay, how do we keep the right papers, right?
yes.
And then also live in a digital world. Some things need to be digitized, right? Do you need every single VHS tape ever you've ever had? Like, maybe not. Like, I hear we have Netflix, right? Right? Like, you got YouTube, right? So there's some
Yeah.
things that okay, like, how do we move from analog to digital? And then there's some things that I don't want to live. I personally don't want to live in a purely digital world,
Yeah.
right? Because then you lose the crackle of a record,
Mhm.
right? You lose the tailor, the craftsmanship of, a 1950s,
Mhm.
piece of furniture. You're like, oh my gosh, that is like somebody hand carved that
Yeah.
thing. That's a real thing, right? And you can AI and 3D and all the things out of it, but you can feel that person's energy and that person's
Right.
essence, right? So that's again coming back to first looking at it and then having a relationship with our items, and then it becomes really clear, what things we keep and what things we digitize.
Yeah, I love it. I love your whole perspective here. So you only cover certain parts of California? Is that
Yeah, yeah. So we're in LA right now. So
okay? All
yeah,
right. So yeah, I was like, Northern California or just Southern Cal? So you just cover all
Southern
Southern.
Cal, but like from your lips to God's ears, we're trying to grow. We're trying
That's
to grow.
right.
Like
Exactly.
and then like at the highest level, like really what I get excited about is there's a lot of smart people and a lot of companies and a lot of money invested into getting all these items into our homes, right? You think about the logistics chain, the
Yes.
supply chain, some of the stuff that's being disrupted now,
Mhm.
the oil, and you think about even the COVID, supply chains are interrupted, right? So like how do we mindfully, respectfully, and intelligently use AI, use all this technology to reverse engineer that logistics chain, right? So if it got here, right, we should be able to walk back up that road and be like, oh, like there still is metal in that couch, right? So should that metal go into a landfill? No, let's get that metal out and then repurpose it with a scrap yard. Like, okay, that wood, how can that wood be reused? Like, how do we re-engineer how all that stuff came through? So we try to be sort of thoughtful. And that's the long-term vision of it. And I think about like I don't have kids of my own, but when I think about the youth and young and like the world that they're inheriting, like we're not talking about it, but climate change is real. Like this is a real thing. So like how can I align all of my personal values into the business values so that you can do what every generation wants to do, which is leave, the world a little bit better than you found it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you know what? And that's what we try to do. We try to leave it just to give something where there's resources, information, knowledge, whatever we can do to just help people in any aspect of life. That's what we try to do. Our experiences, I always tell people like, if you have something going on, share it, like, to help somebody out or what have you. You just never know. Just this one conversation can be changing somebody's life,
That's it.
right? Or make them think about something that they was like, I've been thinking about that. And now when you hear something like this podcast, then they were like, you know what, I can do that now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's
Yeah.
how I feel. That's how I look at life. And so, Jason, I want to thank you. If there's anything else that you want to share or add on this call on this episode today.
No, I think like I said at the beginning, I never thought I'd be running a junk removal company, but I couldn't be happier, right? And it's
Yes.
ICL Junk Removal, and we're around here in Inglewood, and it is with deep and profound like I can't tell you how much like it's like the stewardship, right? Like this isn't about me, it isn't about the company, it's about holding this position for a little bit and making the world a little bit better
Right.
in my time, right? Because again, I'm taking my own advice. I gotta get ready for my end too,
Yeah,
right? So like
we all
as
do.
I'm preparing, right? Like, how do I do that in a way that invites flourishing around us? And,
True.
junk is it.
That is so true because when you think about it, like some days I'm in my kids, I'm thinking like, okay, what can I do to make things just a little bit easier for them if something should happen to me, right? Like, I don't need them looking at having to go through so much stuff
Mm.
that is just painful for them, right? And so that's one of the things that I think about, you know.
Oh, I'll leave you. I'll leave you. I love that. I love that because I'll leave you with something very, very, very practical, right? So, oftentimes you asked me earlier about like how people are feeling. A lot of people are feeling shame and overwhelm, right? Right? And because you're embarrassed, you're like, oh my gosh, what are people gonna think? Da da da. Like you found possums in somebody's roof. You're like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. This is super intense. But there's a framework that we go through, and kind of bad, like SHIT, right? But like when you think about getting rid of your stuff, right? So the S stands for sight, right? Can you see your things? If you can't see it, you won't use it. We have a phrase, out of sight, out of mind,
Right?
right? And then the H, height, can you reach it, right? And this
Right.
changes again with mobility and time, right? Can I actually
Mhm.
touch the things, right? And if you look
Yeah.
at, the cupboards behind, like I try to organize all my stuff where if I can't see it, if I can't get the pepper, you know what's not gonna happen? I'm not gonna use the curry sauce if it's buried in the backyard and I gotta dig through 4 boxes to get it while my
Yeah.
beef is burning. I'm not gonna use
That's so
it, right?
true.
It's just not gonna
Yes.
work, right? And then like the timing piece around like, okay, how can I organize my things based on when and how I use them, right? So I don't golf when it's raining, right? I don't swim when it's raining, right? So then that tells me where I should put my golf and swim equipment, right? We know every single year, Christmas, 4th of July, Thanksgiving come, right? So like we know and we have, the technology to set a timer like, okay, my Thanksgiving stuff stays there and I use it once a year. Great. So that's where it's at. So I'm not surprised if you're like, oh my gosh, where's my pumpkins? Oh no, no, pumpkins are right there, right?
Yeah.
Wait,
Right.
where's my
Right.
holly? Oh no, it's right there. That's for
Uh-huh.
Christmas stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
So again, that sight, height, and timing are
Yeah.
ways to organize.
Right. And it's all important. It's all critical. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you'll be surprised too, because I had a client and I says, your if your mom can't reach if she can't reach it from right here, then and she's on a walker, she
Yeah.
doesn't have to do anything. It has a lot because that means if mobility and if she's reaching, so we like to see things at an eye level, bring it down so she
Absolutely.
doesn't have to reach up for it, right?
Exactly.
And she can just get it, right?
Yep.
So and then, when you tell people, they're like, "Oh my God, I never thought about it that way." Yes, it's very important. So, my God, Jason, I want to thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here today, and I want you to tell people how they can reach you.
Absolutely. I appreciate being here. The best way is to our website, ICL Junk Removal, all one word.
Mhm.
And then you can also follow us on Instagram and all the socials. But
Okay.
yeah, ICL Junk Removal.
Awesome, awesome. I love it. And so today, you guys, this episode is sponsored by CFS Medical Supplies and Equipment and CFS Solutions. And Jason, we want to thank you again. So you guys, this will be like all of our interviews. It will be a blog, and then you'll be able to reach Jason through the blog information, just talking about this great conversation we're having today. And it's more than just junk. Okay, it's mental, it's peace, it's all those things. And so thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.